Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage podcast, episode 141. I am Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Sinitsky and Janice here too. Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
I like
guys.
that nobody ever knows my last name.
They
I
don't.
prefer
They
it
don't
that
need to.
don't.
I was eating my sofritas burrito bowl. And I
Yeah.
got the sofritas not because I'm vegan, but because it tastes better.
Okay. Well, we will assess your quiet eating skills, but worst case, there's a mixer here if you need to eat loudly. So.
Thank you. I have not moved on to the chips I bought for the community, not thinking about what was going on.
Yikes.
I'm just trying to create an ASMR channel.
Oh, by the way, I do have to do a shout out to the Chanhassen Chipotle, because they were all of like 2 minutes late getting my food ready. And they like totally gave me the hookup. They gave me like a free drink and put me out in front of like everybody else that was in line and everything. And it was pretty awesome. So, albeit I was late, they did a really good job.
Yeah,
taking
but
care
you're
of me.
always late. I'm used to that.
Yeah, but I mean, they did. Well, I mean, even by my standards,
That's
they,
pretty normal.
They did a really good job of taking care of me. So, I'm pretty happy about that.
Cool. Moving on to beer. I'm doing water this week.
Why this week? Why water?
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I guess your health has been
Not,
failing.
not in
you.
the mood
Hydrate
for
sometime.
beer.
That's fair.
Some mornings I'm just not in the mood for beer.
That's absolutely fair. I've been kind of going through that myself. So
I have guacamole.
Jan's
the
got
best
guacamole,
beer.
and I'm drinking a root beer.
Fair
So
enough.
I've got the closest thing to a beer.
Well, it has the name beer in it, so yes, I think you win the segment this week.
It is carbonated and oaky.
Carbonated root beer? Root beer's supposed to be flat.
No?
Yeah.
This is like carbonated, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, root beer's
Uh,
supposed to be flat though.
Chipotle always carbonates their root beer for
That's
whatever
probably why
reason.
that's probably why it tastes weird then.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Before we get into main topics, I do want to plug Patreon once real quick. Head on over to patreon.com/carbitrage. Take a look at a few open-ended levels we have for direct support for content consumers like you to support content producers like us. Patreon.com/carbitrage.
Sorry about
I
that.
probably should have held off on the episode until you guys were done eating, honestly.
No, it's fine. I should have held off on that bite because I thought you were going to take a little bit longer with the Patreon.
Nah, people have heard
plug.
us plug it before. So.
So, I want to talk about. I spend a lot of time following auctions and stuff, like for like classic car market and everything. Because well, A, I like to window shop, and B, I like to pretend that I'm doing something productive during my day.
Oh, God.
So, I think I found my favorite auction I've ever seen. It's got something for all of us.
Okay.
This is BH Auctions. I've never heard of them. They're a Japanese auction house, from what I can tell. They do a few auctions per year. But their upcoming Tokyo Terada auction, it's pretty much like it's a greatest hits of all the great cars.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of really cool cars. I'm seeing some cool BMWs. I'm seeing some cool Japanese cars.
Oh yeah, like what I went through, my highlights, a Kinmurray Skyline, a cocained out Countach, F40, E30 M3 Sport Evo, Renault Turbo 2, Fairlady Z 432, a 512 BBI. Like, this is a great auction. Like, this is probably,
Yeah, it's a odd variety.
it's an odd variety of just like, this is,
It's like if we somehow all died in a terrible accident and our car collections went for auction.
if,
Well,
our dream car
our
collection.
our like rich, not actually us car collections.
this is basically,
This
if
is
you took
us in the
if you took
future.
my, like, list of favorite cars and your list of favorite cars and put them all together,
It'd be pretty close.
this is pretty much what this auction
Like
is.
they even have a Renault Turbo 2.
Yeah, a Renault Turbo 2, a Honda S800, like a bunch of really cool stuff. If you want a daily driver, there's a Ferrari 250 GT 2+2. I mean, it's a great daily.
There's even actual race cars.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
it's a 2+2.
Yeah, there's a John Player Special Lotus, a Ferrari F187, 308s, drophead, Jaguar XK120 drophead, like a bunch of really cool stuff. So,
Yeah, I was
that's-
scrolling through to see what my favorite thing was. I like that F40, but I don't like the aftermarket wheels or whatever the hell those are.
yeah, that kind of got me.
I'm
I
gonna go
really-
Sport Evo because why not?
Yeah.
really like the Porsche
Oh.
912.
I also I like the
Didn't actually mean to
512.
click on
That,
yeah, the BBI is cool.
Yeah, BBI I think would be my favorite one. The Ferrari 512.
Oh, they're also pretty.
There's also a Volkswagen Vanagon. I'm sorry, a Porsche 912.
I just said I liked that.
Well, it's a good
The
car.
Vanagons are great.
It just has a van engine, which is
Okay.
fine. It's nothing against it. It's just a fact.
It might
However,
be a
we should
plus.
note that Kinmurray is an actual GTR. That's one of 173 that they ever made.
I like this S800.
The
Yeah.
S800 is very cool. But if you scroll up, so everybody knows the Hakoska, that Skyline right there, the C10. The C110, this one, 1973 only. They released it like a month and a half before the oil embargo happened. And they were planning on, or sorry, 197. Yeah, I think that's what I said. They were planning on doing like a full production of the car, and they had to kill it like immediately. And so it's exceedingly rare. So
Are these like factory over fenders?
that's exactly how it left the factory.
Oh, okay.
The wheels are different actually, because they had steel wheels from the factory, because they're made for, literally being like taken to a racetrack and not actually not ever having any time on the road. So.
Yeah, it's a cool looking car.
Yeah,
I love
it's-
the fender mirrors, so you know I like it.
Oh yeah, and it looks like a muscle car, which is what I like about old Japanese cars.
BHauction needs to work on their website hosting.
Their
They
website
do.
is really bad.
Pretty slow.
It's a terrible website, but I mean, it's also from Japan too, so like what do you expect?
I like that every single one of these cars is incredibly adorable.
And it's not just like super bougie cars too. That's like a Fiat X19, like a really really good Fiat X19.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a very clean looking
Probably-
example.
probably the
It's
best
like
one.
butter yellow,
Yeah.
mint condition. It's got
It's-
some magnesium alloys.
matching paint colors throughout the entire body, which is huge.
An engine that probably is running. I mean, it's just a bunch of things you don't typically see.
It might actually have rust in the engine bay because not everything's coated in oil.
Yeah, they cut costs by not putting rust protection on the engine bay or behind
Yeah, they just
because I just assumed the valve cover would take care
yeah,
of it.
they just didn't put gaskets on the engine. That's fine.
Well, I mean, to be fair, almost every modern vehicle's engine, I guess, is completely gasketless.
Yeah, that's why they're all dying. You have to scrap them all the time.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, you just buy a lot of RTV because that's
All of the
that's
RTV
what
in
they're
the
held
world.
together
Yeah.
with now. Like the tolerances
Didn't
are
we
so
make-
precise.
An RTV gasket for the Subaru.
No,
Everyone's done it before.
I can't remember what it was. I did one where I really
we did
shouldn't
some
have.
really hood rat.
There was one where that was the Accord, I think, but it wasn't supposed to be RTV. It's just that the aftermarket oil pans are so poorly made
Oh yeah,
that
pattern parts.
there's like an air gap. So I just filled the air gap in with RTV.
That reminds me of like it's some like Chevy small blocks, but they're the two-piece main seal ones. They
Yeah.
actually have like a felt strip that's included with the oil pan gasket
really?
set.
Yeah,
And you basically just RTV that between the crankshaft and the pan, and that is what the seal is.
yeah.
It's really it's kind of terrifying.
It used to be cork.
I've
That's why,
seen some-
That's why every small block Chevy just leaks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of gaskets I have on even the BMWs here are cork, or at least were originally, but I've definitely seen some pretty hood stuff on some cheap cars I've bought before. And I'm going to use that as a kind of weak segue into. I want to talk about the process of scrapping an old car.
Oh yes.
Why people are scared of it, what you can actually expect to get for that, like then and now, and then why people still choose it over tax deductible donations or just trying to sell it outright. So I deal with this a lot, but
Yeah.
probably it's shifted more from buying stuff to part out and scrap in the last 10 years to the last couple of years buying stuff to kind of just fix and sell back on.
Well, a lot of the cars that we used to buy and sell,
Right.
it makes you can actually fix them and get your money for them.
Well, that and back, I want to say, let's just pick 5 years ago. Scrap was $350 a ton, so you could take something
Yes.
that was just absolute trash, and it made financial sense to scrap it. Like you take it to the scrapyard, you get
Yeah.
$350, like worry free. Just bring a title. Actually, you don't even need titles back then.
That's what the minimum price for a car was. Like if you went on
Yeah.
Craigslist, you would just go by what's the minimum price for
Yeah, you
scrap,
couldn't get
and-
anything running driving for $350 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now scrap price is $20 a ton, so you can buy like really good 15-year-old cars that really don't have any problems or like nickel and dime stuff like
Yeah.
oh there's a lot of warning lights but it runs and drives for that same scrap value from
The-
5
Yeah.
years ago.
Like the C5 A6s,
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, like, okay, it needs like both front axle shafts, an O2 sensor, and an ABS
All
sensor.
4 upper control arms in the front. Yeah.
Right, but like running driving vehicle
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
that
Very
would still
physical,
keep going,
like-
and it's $350 because you're
'Cause
you're
everything's
fighting a
broken.
$120 valuation from a scrapyard.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything from a tax deductible donation place because what they do when you donate a car is they auction it, and they give you a deduction based on that auction sale.
Yes.
But auction cars like that are worth nothing right now. So it's actually better than trying to sell it outright because a lot of people don't want to deal with the type of demographic and clientele that's shopping for a $350 car.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And well, so this is the thing. Actually, speaking, because I am that demographic. What's the least amount of money you've ever paid for a car
That runs and drives or just a car?
that runs and drives?
$150.
Okay, that beats me because my cheapest purchase I ever made, 60,000 mile CA Accord. That was perfect in every way except for the fact that it had been parked outside every day on the road since it was new. The passenger side was flawless. Like the paint, was literally glistening. I've never seen one that good a condition. The driver's side was like you could open the door without touching the door handle.
Very, very fine.
I
Just
paid
from like road salt splash onto it.
Yeah, I paid $125 for that, plus a subwoofer I found in a dumpster. So that was the cheapest I've ever paid for a car.
Fair enough. I did get one car that started and drove forward and backward for $100, but it didn't have any brake discs or calipers on it, so I'm not counting that.
Yeah.
The one for $150, I drove it home.
That one you helped me get
That hatch?
the hatch Stephen Hawking.
Yes.
That one I think was like $60. Yeah. Yeah, so that was really cheap.
I distinctly remember it costing me more in fuel to help you than you paid for the vehicle.
Yes. And it was worth it because I actually did get like 3 parts that I needed for the CRX off of that, and those 3 parts were worth more than I paid for that car. So
I
it's
find
fine.
that a lot these days.
I
mean, the
remember
last...
going through the drive-through to get Shamrock Shakes.
Oh
with
yeah.
that.
Yep. Me too. It's hard to take a car trailer through a drive-through,
Yes, it is.
but it's doable.
I would really wish I had more time with that car because I would have totally tried to find like an Integra front clip and just like welded an Integra front end onto that or something.
Ugh.
No.
Just make something goofy.
All the parts sat in my Sienna in my basement. No.
Jenna knows what would actually happen, which is that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly how it happens. Yeah.
I literally drove to MAP and threw everything in front of their cargo doors and made them deal with it because
Sweet.
I didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Sweet.
So anyway, going back to the whole scrapping cars, dealing with people you don't want a bunch of people like jewelers picking up their meth scabs and
Right.
eyeing up all your copper piping in your house
That's
while
the
they're
thing.
trying to buy your car.
A lot of this stuff, what I deal with, it's German cars. So this is probably a 3 Series that somebody bought brand new
Yeah.
for their wife or something like that, and then 10 years later they gave it to one of their kids. Sometimes they gave it to another kid after that. And these things have been let go. They stopped caring at some point. They don't usually need significant stuff. The ones that have bad head gaskets or bad transmissions, they end up in the scrapyard. That's just how it works. But these people, you can tell that they're perturbed that this vehicle that they bought 15 years ago for X amount of money and have had the entire time
Is now completely worthless.
no, they're they hate to see
Oh, really?
it go get squeezed. So
Yeah.
That's
even
a
if-
good point.
Even if they get paid less, they would prefer give it to somebody who's actually gonna fix it or use it.
with Ron Jana's Super Rusty Accord. That I'm in the exact
I
same.
remember that story. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna scrap that. We're gonna donate it to Hennepin Tech or something. Because
After we scrounge a lot of parts off.
yeah,
Right.
well, because Hennepin Tech is a body program. They're always looking for super crappy cars to
Sure.
do body work on. So yeah, we're just gonna give it
I
to them.
always joke that we're going to give it to them and then all of a sudden it's going to start working again and everybody's going to be very confused.
That's kind of how that car works.
Yeah, that transmission alone is just like a mystery box.
Yeah.
It really is just. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
It's
but
just
I've-
self-mutilation and self-improvement all in one thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And before we bought the Accord, I was looking for kind of a wagon hatch dealio because I didn't have my Sienna yet. And so I was still sharing the Sienna with both my mom and my sister, which was ridiculous. And so we were looking for cheap cars that I could afford because I had like maybe $100. And we drove an STD, a Honda.
A Civic, a Honda Civic base model.
Yeah.
88 was called the STD, which is abbreviation of standard.
I hate to say it, if you only have $100, you really ought to be in public transport.
Yeah,
true.
but
Not
I
a
mean,
car.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's true.
I had like $100 to spend towards a car. Like
Again, we could also like this is right when scrap like hit the bucket, and like you could still find
Right.
EG, EK Civics for that price range.
So maybe
in,
not
like
like
really poor
100, but
condition.
I was looking for a cheap car that I could just use for a little bit and then maybe sell parts off of or whatever. And so I drove this STD, and we started at a gas station, and the gearbox was so messed up that it stalled in the middle of the intersection. I got pulled over,
Oh.
Just because I'm familiar with this car, do you want me to describe exactly everything that was broken on it?
and not yet.
I'll wait till you're done.
So I got pulled over on this test drive. The cop asked me if I knew how to drive manual, and I almost cried because it was the first time I ever got pulled over. The cop berated me basically, and we're like, no.
Yeah, that's kind of a dick thing to say.
Like no, it stopped working in the middle of the intersection because it's not working. And he's like, right, okay, let us like go or whatever. And we finished the test drive very quickly after that because I'm like, I like gave Ryan a look like I'm not buying this car. And so we like finished the test drive, and then Ryan was like, you guys want way too much money for this. You'd get more money scrapping it. And the woman that was trying to sell it to me almost cried.
So this is the long and short of that. That car was it was actually $750.
Okay.
That's what you wanted for that. It had a blown head gasket. It was a dual point fuel injection car, where the second butterfly valve so there's one valve that's like the throttle body, and the second one that's kind of like changes the airflow going to the cylinders.
Okay.
The secondary valve was completely broken off somehow, like the cable snapped off of it.
Cool.
I've never seen that happen before in my life.
Yeah.
The car was super duper rusty everywhere. The shift linkage, why Jana couldn't shift it, every rubber bushing was completely disintegrated.
It felt like you're moving the shifting stick through spaghetti.
And first gear would change its location.
Nice.
So sometimes first would be here, and then it'd be like over here, and then once it was like closer to like where second was, which was kind of weird. But it was like all entirely about like where I had
You
my
have to
like.
calculate where it's binding most.
Yeah.
Not only was I moving on a like Z and X axis, I had a Y axis I was moving on. So
It's
it was
basically
really
a
weird.
CNC mill for a
It,
shifter.
it was like me if I was trying to sell Ron in his current state to anyone
Oh
else.
man.
And being convinced that I could get just under $1,000 for him.
So why Jana said like $100? I'm like, I'll give you $100 for that. Scrap is $150. You know, you can honestly scrap it. Honestly, I think I might use maybe the dashboard out of this, if anything.
I'm like, this is terrible.
Everything was bad.
I do
Yeah.
feel a little bit bad telling somebody when I go and test drive or look at a vehicle that's like clearly something they care about currently, that it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
Like back when I ran recycled BMWs, we got a couple of cars. The guys were like, no, this is a flagship V12. It's a 98 750 IL in cashmere beige on tan. I'm like, no. No. And like it had a bad engine. I'm just like, dude, this car.
There's a one thing
this
had going for
car is worth like $200 maybe. Like it has no value. Like the doors are nice, but it's even a long wheelbase. So like the front doors are the only thing in this car that have value. And I'm just
Everything
like,
else
I
is
have to
worthless.
pay for the car what I can get out of it, and that essentially is just these two doors. So I'll give you $200 for this thing. And the dude was like, no. He calls me back the next day, like, oh, okay. It was at a shop. Like you could tell he was like getting strong armed by the shop to get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
And the repair bill was too high, but I just like,
I've had cars like that come through my shop all the time. Just get a lot of people that they go buy like a Volkswagen van again. They're super unrealistic about it, and it's like you don't have a chassis, you don't have suspension, you don't have an engine, you don't have an electrical system. The interior smells like pee. Like all the windows are broken. The windshield frames are rusted. Like, you can't even put a windshield in this if you wanted to.
Right.
Like, you don't have a car. I'm sorry, you just spent $3,000 on this, but I think your best option is to scrap it, because even I have nothing that... It's like a 1.9. Like, it's not even... It's like a worthless engine, and it's like a manual transmission, so it's like the most common tranny, so it's like, I can't even give you money for the transmission, which grinds. Like, it's like nothing I can do.
Cool.
And yeah, that's just like it's like that's one of those things. Like, you just have to scrap it. And I think the biggest, like, going back on track with these scrapping cars, sometimes it just makes sense. Like, if you got something like that, where it's like every single system is completely destroyed, like, you're better off just scrapping it and just getting over the emotional thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's definitely changed in the last 5 years. What cars end up in that threshold and how people see it. But yeah, it's gotten better for people like us that like cheap cars, because
That's true.
the cars that we would have had to
We don't
buy
mind the runs.
to part out that didn't even necessarily run or drive were more expensive back then
Yes.
than they are in running driving condition today.
But there's still like those things where not every car falls in that category.
No,
Yeah.
you still have to be really careful, because there are
You do.
definitely a lot of cars that are just like, this is a scrapper. Like, there's nothing good.
You can still lose money on a $150 car.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not that hard to do these days, but
So, what I want to talk about, speaking of Jana's experience with awful cars,
okay.
even the EFEG EK Civic,
The hatches.
yeah, those, like the BB4, BB6 Integra, Prelude, the Acura Integra, have always perennially been the most commonly stolen car in the world.
Yeah.
All the
I
time.
remember that.
No longer, actually.
Oh?
Really?
There aren't any left, I think.
I was going to say, I'm not sure what would be more popular than a car you could just carry 4 keys with and have access to.
Well, the problem is everybody thinks that they're popular and everybody has access to them. And unfortunately, this isn't a communist utopia where we all share cars. So we're
Yes,
kind of stuck here
unfortunately.
having these cars that are not really on the list anymore. The list for 2018 most commonly stolen cars, it was finalized this year. So number 10 was the Jeep Cherokee, the 2001. Yeah, it makes sense because you got the 4-liter in there still. You can still yank out.
First year or two had the 4-liter, but they were like a
Yeah.
really bad cylinder head. So the 4-liters on those actually aren't desirable to my
Weird.
knowledge.
So why would you take it then?
I don't know. Like, the 4.7 was in most of those, and that's like,
That's-
I don't remember the origins of that single overhead cam V8, but it's actually pretty good.
Okay, so maybe they take like the V8 cars. then.
Maybe, yeah. They also offered the 5.9, which is a pretty popular
The
tuner.
2001 Dodge Ram is actually on that list, and that makes sense.
Is that like one of the last years of that 93 body style?
No, the 2001 is the Twister body style.
Yeah. That body style started in like
yeah.
93.
Oh yeah. So it was until that was until 2003.
Well, yeah,
But
because they're
why
beautiful.
01?
Probably just based off that one particular year.
That's
'cause
probably like
there's,
the first
mo-
year of the 24 valve Cummins or
Well, I
something.
think it was probably the 01 just because there's the most survivors of that year.
Okay.
So kind of like
That's so weird.
it makes sense the further we get down this list that they have these specific years.
Okay.
Because you have to understand, like, how many 93 Dodge Rams are left versus 2001 Dodge Rams.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
that makes sense.
That's
And same thing with these 2000 Cherokees. Is like, yeah, actually, I think 2000 is the last year of the XK. Or XJ, I mean.
Yeah, there were in the Cherokee, absolutely.
Yeah,
The
so-
Grand Cherokee, I think, was the new body though.
Yeah, so I guess, like, the last year, the XJ would make sense.
Yeah.
Because then you get, like, body panels and stuff. This one's weird, but it makes sense once you hear these next four. 8th place, GMC Sierra 2018.
I have huge questions about any vehicle that gets stolen after about 1995 build date
So-
because of immobilizers.
Yeah.
I'm about to explain that because it's
Okay.
all these other ones. 2017
seeing those.
Corolla, 2017 Altima, 2017 Camry. All those cars have a remote start.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of these remote starts, you can actually get a box that like just sends out every single RFID for that car and then starts it.
Cool.
So, yeah, so it's basically what it is. I think that was for like dealerships and like repo men, like have access to that, and of course like somebody just takes it home with them,
Yep.
and then now the secret's out. So
That's probably been copied in China.
yeah,
and you can
exactly.
buy the key
and,
now.
and then so that makes sense. Then with the 2018 Sierra, like cool, like Now you have like a 5th generation LS that you can get for free. So yeah, then the Corolla, Alta, and Camry. I'm like, that's more like those are obviously probably just going to
Just
Albania.
seems
or
like
something.
those are getting repossessed.
I think they're just going to Albania.
Okay.
Albania probably has a glut of brand new Corollas now. 2004 Silverado is on that list.
That year has no significance.
That one is really weird. Like what?
like it's a year after the facelift,
yeah,
but it's like 4 years from when the body style ended.
when did they like do the big update to like how the immobilizers and the keys are? Because I think
on
that was,
GM stuff? I don't think they ever have. It's
Yeah,
super
so,
easy. You can,
you know,
you can carry
it could be like
with you
it could be one of those things where it's like the mobilizer's there, but it's easily defeatable. Or
on those,
something.
yeah, definitely.
And it's like the 1 year where you have like all the right options.
Yeah, that could be.
06 F-150, that makes sense. You know, just because of the amount of them in the world, like that would
I
make
guess.
sense. And then notice how many Hondas have been on this list so far, which are none.
So far.
So far. But the top 2, don't worry. It's still there. The 1997 Accord and the 2000 Honda Civic. That's really weird because the 97 Accord is a split year.
I was going to say, is that
It's
isn't that
it's a CG CD.
CD?
Yeah, it's CD and CG. So it's the mid 90s and the early 2000s body.
Oh, yeah.
We're both like being as weird as they're phasing one out and bringing that. It was really weird. But yeah, so the 97 Accord. So I imagine it'd be the CD Accord.
I think so. Yeah, I think of 98 as the CG.
Actually,
whatever it is.
Because the CG, I mean, if you get like a 4-cylinder CG,
Yeah.
that was the only 4-cylinder where you get a 4x1 114 leg pattern, which is like the 4-leg pattern, but with rotor over hub brakes, which are that's kind of a big deal. Like that's actually a very sought after part on Honda Accords because those Accords are, have the
So they're just
better brakes.
desirable
Yeah.
as parts cars then?
I think
or-
so.
Okay.
Because, well, I mean, that's the thing is nobody ever takes a Honda Civic and then races it, like, stolen.
That's
Like, you take a Honda Civic, you yank every part off of it, then you leave the chassis.
on 4 Donuts in the
Yeah.
St. Paul Street.
Right in the middle of St. Paul Street, yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like this has always happened because, like, my mom's Honda Accord got stolen in the 90s,
Yeah, that's a good
And-
car.
left on cinder blocks.
Yeah, I mean, that was also the last 2 generations of the F-Series engine, which is Honda's, one of their best 4-cylinders. So.
Yeah, but it was followed up by the K, which is just better.
No, it is, but the thing is, like, with F-Series, just, like, the entry price for, like, that and then all the the amount of money that you're spending building it. It's like saying, like, yes, technically speaking, an M117 Mercedes V8 is a better engine than a small block Chevy. But the small block Chevy is just so much more abundant and so much cheaper. That's why it has that aftermarket support.
Maybe in 2003 that was the case.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is I think like that's where they got popular because like
All right, but these are getting stolen now.
yeah, but I mean it's now that you have 20 years of parts availability for it. But yeah, no, K Series is a better engine. But yeah, I don't know. I imagine it's because of the brakes. Everybody knows why the EK Civic gets stolen though. That makes sense.
Explain the MO of a modern car thief.
The MO, they were trying to get parts off of it.
Well, not in a Honda, yes.
I think these people are trying to sell these like 2017 and 18 cars.
Yeah, what? Okay,
That
so
one's just beyond
who
me.
the hell is stealing a 2018 Sierra?
Well,
don't
somebody
know.
that needs 5th generation.
But are
Hondas.
they
Maniacs?
exporting the thing? Are they
Well,
parting it out?
I
Are
think
they chop
I
shopping it?
imagine they're probably chop shopping it. But what's really just like befuddling me is the Camrys, Altimas, and Corollas.
Like, yeah, these are the repo special cars.
You know what those are? Those are also rental cars.
Oh.
So how many people just like steal a credit card, get a rental, and then just abandon the car somewhere? And that would then be counted as a car theft. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, you're right. That's
That makes
probably
sense.
thief,
You sold
fleet related.
That or Albania's full brand new Altimas.
There's still the Enterprise sticker barcode on the back
But
window.
that is a really good question, and I don't think we know because we're not.
Yeah, we're
car
not
thieves,
we're not
so-
thieves.
If I ever meet a car thief,
We
I
will
have
be
to ask
sure
them.
to ask
That'll be my first. Who steals an Altima? Like why?
So they've got a list here of the most commonly stolen new cars from the 18 model year too. There's
Yeah, it's true.
some overlap, like the
Yeah.
Sierra's on there, Silverado, same
These are
thing.
every single one of these
Corolla.
cars though. Those are all rentals. Like, it's not a single like Fiat or anything weird like that. It's or like a Mirage.
Yeah.
Those
There's
are all
got to
just, like,
be
rentals.
something fleet related in there that
Yeah.
just like, there's some caveat.
Somebody just isn't like returning a fleet car and think it's caused of theft.
Right. Yeah. Or
Joyriding
yeah,
it.
just like you said, stealing a credit card and then shoving it in a container.
Yeah.
Because that way you've got a key. It makes perfect sense. That's probably a big issue.
Every single one of those is a common fleet vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of those.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. That every single one is a fleet vehicle.
Well,
So-
yeah, of the current model year stuff. I mean, still, I mean, this makes sense.
Yep.
The old Hondas makes sense.
This Silverado, I
All
guess.
fleet, like this is like a Ching Chong Bing Bong turbo motor donor.
Yeah.
So like that kind of makes sense to steal it. That's like a Honda.
The F-150, you'd get the body panels off of.
XJs, yeah, people just pimping out their old XJs and they don't have money to buy
Yep.
them.
Or they don't need registration.
The Ram is really weird though.
The
The
2001
01
Ram.
Ram.
Yeah, it's
is
really
like,
weird.
I don't get it. It's got to be a Cummins thing. Maybe that's like the first year of some new configuration for the Cummins. Anyway, we spent
Yeah.
plenty enough time on that.
But I thought it was kind of interesting. That's very, very cool. That the Civics are still there. They still exist. It's like, no,
we
they
can always
exist.
count on you, Civics, to get stolen.
Yes, I'm happy that they still exist.
That's why when I was
many
looking at
noises in the
Civics,
middle
my
of-
dad just said no.
Yeah,
and
no,
walked away
absolutely
from
not.
There's
Yeah.
many noises in the middle of the night in St. Paul streets, and most of them are Civics being chop-shopped.
It's true.
You know, we found a beautiful like dream house, and then we saw that it was really close to Frogtown, and we're like, ooh.
Not with how many Hondas you guys
Yeah, I
have.
was like, oh.
Honda. All right, I want to talk about a better noise you might hear in a more affluent part of town in the middle of the night.
Okay, what would that be?
That would be an AMG exhaust cold start.
Yes.
The latest W205, I think we're selling W205 C-Class, the facelift one, the C63 AMG. 4-liter twin turbo V8.
Very cool.
AMG still somehow manages to make it loud, which is impressive
Perfect.
with turbos.
Perfect.
Love that.
They have now added a loud start feature to the car.
Yes.
You know what so
That's amazing.
I actually read this story at work when I was eating lunch, and I said that out loud. And my coworker goes, "Why would you ever do that?" on a
Because
new
they
car?"
sound great.
No, I said this exists solely for the I'm mad at my HOA demographic. Like that is the only reason that option exists.
Shows you citing me for leaving my garbage can out for an extra 4 hours.
Yeah.
So how you activate this, you get in your car with your fob or whatever and turn on the ignition and you pull either one of the pedals as you hit the start button to start it. And it leaves all the flaps and the exhaust in the default open position instead of the closed position. So like there's a video, I actually watched it, it really doesn't make it that much louder. But just the fact that that's
amazing.
built into the programming
I
of
love
the
that
car
Somebody did that.
just to make it louder.
I also love that on the Jalopnik article, everything was written in caps.
Yep.
The entire article.
I just had
Hello
to
there,
say,
I'm sorry if I'm speaking for loud. But yeah, it's pretty
the
great.
entire article. Yeah, no, Kristen Lee went through the entire article entirely in caps. It's hilarious.
It's pretty great. So the old people will also enjoy the loud start feature. But
I love that.
yeah,
It's great.
I like Scott's comment.
But now-
or the neighbor has a Tesla.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. But also, we should note that it also raises the idle
Oh yes, it
speed.
does.
It
Yep.
does raise the idle speed.
Extra
and,
200 RPM.
And leans it out so it crackles.
Yep.
Ooh. I love that. I just have to say that exhaust is giving me feelings.
So
It
I
looks
want.
beautiful.
It is a really good looking exhaust. Now I want to talk
Well,
about
it's just
something.
like starting up your car after leaving Cars and Coffee and giving it the couple
yeah.
extra
Yeah.
raps. It's just a computer doing it for you.
You
now.
don't need
So-
the brips.
Nope.
You got loud start.
Computer has.
I want to talk about my next helmet, as my current helmet is
Is it expired now?
expires in 2020.
Okay.
However, there is the
Oh my
Shoei
God.
NXR Zork.
How am I not surprised that your helmet looks like a David Hasselhoff video
I
from
love
1988?
this helmet so much. Unfortunately, it's not sold in America.
Is it not DOT or what's the other one?
No,
Snell
it's
certified?
not DOT or Snell. It is FIA though, which you can.
So you
some
can do track
tracks-
days
Yeah,
with
you can
it.
still do track days with it. The issue is you cannot bring it to America as a helmet though.
So bring it in as a coffee table.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So I was talking to Keith, the guy I sit next to, who's a big
Yes,
motorcycle
you're a
guy.
man crush at work.
Gentlemanly lover.
So I was talking to him about this, and actually, this is a really common issue with a lot of people that are into like cafe racers and stuff. Is there's a much larger cafe racer community in like Europe and in India.
Sure.
And so you get helmets from there that are a lot cooler than what we have. So a lot of people go and they get their like vintage styled helmets, and they try to bring it to America as a helmet, and it gets seized by customs because it's not DOT compliant. So what they have to do, you actually import it as a work of art, as a sculpture,
Oh.
and that's how you do it.
I mean, this could very well be considered a work of art.
It
Not,
totally is.
not to my taste, but
That is a work of art to me. I love that. I think it's awesome. But the issue is then if you crash like with it on, your insurance will go, he wasn't wearing a helmet because it was
he's
a
wearing
work
a
of
work
art.
of art.
He's wearing
Well,
Michelangelo's
then,
David on his head.
hopefully, you have your endorsement, which means you don't need to wear a helmet.
That's true. But I mean, like as far as like any insurance increases or anything go, I'm not sure how all that works.
Yeah, I could see that still being a problem. Just,
Yeah.
just fabric. Yeah, well, yeah, yes.
So apparently importing a helmet totally blows. So I think I'm just gonna have to get another Simpson, whatever.
Just have a
And
helmet
vinyl
wrapped
wrap it.
like that.
I actually what I was gonna do is I wanted to get a Simpson helmet like the Stigs, but I wanted to do a Ayrton Senna livery on it, so yellow with the blue and green stripes around the back.
I highly recommend just their naked carbon fiber helmet. They're great.
I like white.
Okay, Caucasian, but that's fine. Racist.
I'm sorry. That was a short one. I just wanted to mention
That's
that
fine.
the Shoei Zork exists.
That's fine. Well, the next one we can share too, because you apparently wrote in the notes after I put it in here that you were gonna run it as well. So
I
the
literally was.
Cannonball, the C2C, officially kind of disbanded 10, 15 years ago, but unofficially still very much alive and able to have a record attempt done. I'm not actually sure when these guys ran. I know there's some statute of
3 months ago.
limitations, that they waited for, but 2015 E63 AMG Weisstech went coast to coast in 27 hours 25 minutes.
What?
So that is like 3 hours faster than the last record of just about 30 hours.
Obliterated that record, yeah.
And they finally cracked the over 100 mile per hour average speed. So they averaged 103 miles per hour.
Was it 103 or was it 109?
I think it was 103.
Yeah.
We can play the video for
But they also
people
went
just to watch too, but-
193 as their top speed.
Yeah, that was their top
That's
speed. So.
That's bonkers.
Previous record from Ed Bullion in that CL was 31 hours 4 minutes.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
But yeah, this E63 is great because they painted the red calipers gray.
Yep.
They vinyled over parts of the taillights to make it
make
look
them
like an
look like an
Accord.
Accord, yeah.
They took off all the
That's amazing.
badges. It's clever.
Well, so I
love
actually
that.
I watched the video on how the guy did it, and he's like, actually, what I did was I transferred the title so I could legally run two different
Two
plates.
sets of plates. Yep.
Because there was a statute of limitations in which you can still run your old plate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he did this during that. So if he did have any
Yeah,
issues,
he registered the day
he could-
before or
he
something.
could change plates. And just say, oh, I didn't change. And then if he gets pulled over with that plate, it would still be it'd be illegal on the car and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool how they did this.
Yeah,
It's
I
got a
had-
lot of balls to actually go out there and say, yeah, I did that.
I highly recommend the VinWiki video.
Yes.
They've actually done a couple now. They've done one after this article was posted too on just the countermeasure devices they've used.
Yes. I thought it was just so cool.
The most interesting countermeasure, in my opinion, was the small plane
Yeah.
crash avoidance system, which is basically just a transponder that warns you whenever there's another aircraft within a certain number of miles
Yeah.
for tracking the aircraft speed tracking, which
Yeah.
is a big thing.
And so if you don't leave the cities very often, it's a lot more common in the country. But if you
Your
ever
microphone cable's rubbing on your.
sorry. If you are driving like out in the country, you see those weird kind of stripe lines that go not
The
parallel,
whites-
but they
perpendicular, yep.
perpendicular to the rest of the road lines. Do you know what I'm talking about, honey? You drive out in the middle of nowhere.
I literally don't pay attention.
Look at the lines. You'll see these
little hash
white,
marks.
These little hash marks that are perpendicular, and those are ways for aircraft to be able to track your speed as they count how long it takes for you to go from one of those to another one of those. Because I
Okay.
think it's something like a quarter mile.
Yeah, I think the distance does vary, but
Yeah.
it's a long enough distance where if you're just doing a pull and you go back down, you could technically avoid a ticket.
Yeah.
You would have to know the tracking. But yeah, in like Iowa and Nebraska especially,
That's
actually
really
pretty
huge.
common
Yeah.
on clear days. So it's always good to look up if you're allegedly going to go a bit faster.
Or get an aircraft crash avoidance system.
Yeah, I don't know how much that transponder thing costs
A
or
lot.
the implications of running one in a ground-based vehicle, but it's clever.
Yes, it
They
is.
didn't really touch on their roof night vision scope very much. I'm guessing it didn't work very well.
But that was a heat-sensitive camera.
Okay. So
And it
thermal
was
camera.
very, very, very finicky. And so they couldn't rely on it at all. However, the thought was you'd be able to see if they're using a laser, it would light up the entire piece of glass that was shining through because it would actually light that up. So it would be able to see like a laser beam being shot at you or an infrared beam. So that's actually that one. These like honestly, most of these you probably do, but like that one I wouldn't really recommend. That's totally unrealistic.
Yeah, I think that one didn't really work as advertised for them
Yeah.
because they didn't talk about it at all in the VinWiki video. But yeah, they're good radar detector, Waze,
Yes.
and then
I
they had a
love
lot
Waze
of
so
they had a
much.
lot of help from spotters in
Yes.
certain parts of the
Yeah.
country, especially Ohio. It sounded like they just
I think
grenaded
they had
through
something
Ohio.
like 13 different spotters or something. I
On the
read,
entire
yeah.
route, yeah, I think they had 7 of them
Yeah.
in just Ohio.
Oh my god.
Well, I think they made up some time through Ohio, and they said one of the spotters got pulled over going to spot for them, doing like 130.
Oh,
That's good. Not their problem.
Right, but these guys didn't get pulled over. They had 2 close calls. One was triple digits past a cop in the median, but he was facing the other way.
oh, I've done that.
And the
before.
other one was far enough away where they were waiting for the cop to flip around and nothing happened. But apparently later on the police scanner, like they were having radio issues or something like that, so they also weren't fully paying attention or something.
Thank God.
I know, but yeah,
Oh
it
my
sounded like
goodness.
Ohio was where they had both of those close calls too.
So
But
the universe blessed this run.
yeah,
It
I
willed it to
mean,
happen.
you really have to be hauling the mail. I mean, this is like between 2,800 and 3,200 miles. I can't actually remember
Oh,
the
yeah,
exact figure, but
it's-
it's a lot of distance to cover in just over a day.
I think it's just over 2,900 miles, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's super
That's-
cool,
yeah,
and I
that's-
think the E63 is a great choice for the
That is.
vehicle.
Well, so another thing that they mentioned, and they said this is the most important part, and this is something nobody ever wants to talk about or hear about, but it's driver comfort. You have to do it in
Yeah.
a comfy car.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh, yeah.
there's no way you're about to take a Honda Civic with like an H series in it.
Oh god.
And they were
for it.
even commenting they put on purpose they put all season tires on it because they go through mountains,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like summer tires are a really bad idea.
Oh, awful idea.
So I think they put Michelin Pilot Sport AS3s on it, and apparently those are rated for 190 plus miles per hour because.
So they did a lot of research.
my favorite idea is, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. honey. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a lot of research and a lot of care went into this. Like this is modern
Yes.
engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And like I think, if it could be done legally just for testing, that would, I mean, the safety whatever would
So-
get really good insights on this.
And this
This-
guy's attempted the record a couple times before in an old Monte Carlo.
That's hilarious.
Oh god.
So
Didn't work.
this is my favorite part. Is this guy probably went to like a Tires Plus and bought some tires.
Probably.
And he's like, I need V-rated tires. And the guy, well, we got these H-rated. He goes, no, I need V. They're like, you're never gonna really get to the speed. He goes, I need.
As a
The
car comes in with a
V-rated.
thermal scope on the roof. Right.
These V-rated tires will be used.
Right.
I
But
need to
it's-
be in LA
This
tomorrow.
sounds like this car is just his daily driver, and like he said,
Really?
beside a look over at a shop, an oil change, and tires, he just ran his daily. Oh, and they cut out half the rear seat so they could get a little more depth for their bins.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's another important part.
But yeah, it was a 3-person crew, a spotter, a navigator, and a driver. And I believe the driver probably switched off a couple times, but that's a seriously impressive thing.
Yeah.
All of the people that have set the records in the last 20 years it seems like they're pretty close friends.
I think my favorite, I think it was Alex Roy that did it, but
Mm-hmm.
he had an Infinity crossover, and he put in a fuel cell, a gigantic fuel cell.
Well, he did it in an M5.
No, it wasn't him. There was somebody, but there was
Ed
somebody that did.
Bolian did 2 like 100-gallon fuel cells in the trunk of that Mercedes.
No, there was a guy that did one in a Infinity.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never heard about that guy.
because I remember it was an Infinity like QX50.
Oh no.
It was just
It's
like
gonna do like 8 miles to the gallon at those speeds.
that's the thing is he just filled the entire trunk as a gas tank, and like
That seems really unsafe.
it was like the only it was like the I think it was like the last one.
Even
that was,
this, the whole trunk is just fuel
I
cell.
think this is the last. That was the last record that
Ed
was
Bolian
done
in a CL.
under 100 miles per hour average. if I'm not mistaken.
You might be right, but I haven't in the research and looking I've done on this. I don't.
There,
remember that.
I'll have to look it up.
It must not have been a winning time.
I might not have been, but it was definitely an entertaining thing to read. Oh yeah, he did it in like a giant SUV, which is hilarious.
It's a little more inventive than doing it in a twin turbo E-Class. I mean, this car had a bunch of Weisstech mods on it, fully stock, like hard points, but it had a 700 horsepower tune on it.
Yeah.
And then it was unfortunately tuned for 93, and I think they ran into fueling issues, but it's pretty cool. I don't know how many fuel stops they made. The fuel on board on the car was about 100 gallons, so they were able to go pretty far.
God, so
And a couple of the spotters, they actually had them ahead of time with both like the premium nozzles, working pump ready to go. So apparently, because they fill up the cell in the trunk and the main tank of the car at the same time.
That's
and they
really
just have
funny.
Transfer pumps and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I was like, she goes both ways. That Cannonball movie. But to answer Scott's question, I don't know if there's an EV record. I assume so.
Yeah, that'd actually be a good one. An EV record. Yeah.
The Cannonball, I think, is just any vehicle.
Yeah. Now, this was a Jalopnik article that we did, and Alex Roy actually is a Jalopnik contributor, one of the guys I mentioned previously. So I actually want to say I do have something to talk about with Jalopnik. Patrick George, the editor-in-chief of Jalopnik, he is stepping down as editor-in-chief.
No, not Jalopnik.
Yeah, don't worry, they're still going to be around. It's just Patrick George is leaving. He's been around for like a long time. I think for its entire existence, not as editor-in-chief, but at least on like some level he's been there.
This E3 on here is pretty cool.
Yes, he drove that across from Seattle to New York.
It's pretty neat. I like those Uniroyal Tiger paws.
I know, right? Oh my God, those are tiger paws.
Yep.
But yeah, so he's just like dealing with
Tiger's paw.
they were Jalopnik and like Gawker Media, and was bought out by a private equity firm.
Oh.
And he's just like, the last couple of years have just been a disaster. He's like, luckily Jalopnik hasn't like pissed off anybody, but he's like, it's just not fun anymore.
Sure.
And he's like, I just feel like I need to pass the torch. I really love you guys. You're everything. So we love him too. He's given us a lot of very, very cool.
A lot of the articles we cover here on Carbitrage
I
are
would say
sourced
half.
from Jalopnik.
Easily half. But yeah, they've been around for 15 years, which like in the internet world, that's a dinosaur.
They started with Web 2.0, and now we're here.
Yeah, exactly. They've been around forever. Yeah, so he'll be missed. It's not like he's dead or anything.
It sounds like you're eulogizing the man,
Right,
so...
kind of, but he's not dead or anything. He's just not working at Jalopnik.
So basically dead.
Yeah, maybe he'll get like a job at like Top Gear or something.
We have a fourth microphone.
Yeah. Oh,
Feel free, Patrick George, to
can
come.
I
Yes.
add in a subject
Yes.
real quick? I found out that Dax Shepard's
Oh.
now on American Top Gear.
That sounds like what you learned.
Oh.
No, this one's actually cool because
The new crew is actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's Rob Corddry and Dax Shepard.
I don't think either of us have put this on here, so we can talk about that.
Yeah, let's do that real quick because
I'll pull up the.
Just because, like, when they first rebooted, like, Top Gear America, it had that Joey from Friends, and I don't know if he knew anything about cars.
no, it was
that's
normal
the
Top
UK.
Gear. That was real Top
Oh,
Gear.
that was real Top Gear? That
And
wasn't a...
He does.
oh.
He's vaguely a car enthusiast, and he
There we
just
go.
happened to have a lap, like a celebrity lap record.
Yeah. I actually
I
inadvertently
forgot.
watched the Top Gear UK Matt LeBlanc guest spot with
Yeah.
Clarkson last week, too. It was interesting. But, yeah, so they're rebooting this on Motor Trend on demand.
Yeah,
Okay.
which I think is a way
It's
better.
a good idea. The
yeah.
current UK repository is on there anyway, so BBC
Yeah.
has a deal with Motor Trend anyway.
Well, I think it's just like Top Gear America, like doesn't have the reach that original Top Gear had. I think cable is a dead medium,
Right.
So it's
but
just,
Grand Tour is on an internet-only streaming platform.
exactly. I think
so-
that this is a really good way to have like an American style of Grand Tour. 66% of this cast I'm really into. I love Rob Corddry. I love Dax Shepard. Jethro Bovingdon looks awesome. He's a very, very.
We had a hard time looking at his face.
That's why I recognize him.
He's very difficult to look at.
Yeah. Is he from CarWow or Auto Car?
I think, yeah,
think he's
Carwow.
from-
Yeah, Carwow. But He looks like I think he looks like Patton Oswalt if Patton Oswalt like lost all of his weight.
Lost a bunch of weight. Yeah.
Yeah, which it does not like work because Patton
No.
Oswalt like looks perfect the way he is, but this is like
I don't know if I've ever heard that described that way.
like
But-
he looks perfect the way he is. Jethro Bovington is like exactly why I say
Okay, Patton's mother.
Yeah.
You look perfect just the way you are.
I think of Patton Oswalt looks perfect because he could look like that, which is terrible looking. I
God.
don't. It's gonna be very difficult to look at him.
I'm excited for this. I
Yeah, I
more
am.
car show content. Like I burn out internet repositories of stuff I want to watch super quick these days.
Oh yeah. Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm-
I move
I'm
on like really
stacked.
really weird like YouTube channels and stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I watch like vintage PC hardware video channels
Yeah.
now because I'm like, this is interesting to me still, and I haven't fully exhausted.
Yeah, no, I was really excited because when I was younger, I had a giant crush on Dax Shepard, and now he's reemerging in the media, and teenage Jenna's very excited.
I think that Jethro Bovington should take a hike. They should bring back Rutledge Wood, but he does NASCAR now, so he's sitting pretty.
I was looking for the actual launch date. I don't remember if they said. I know it's 2020, but
I don't know when it is.
either way,
2020.
stay
But
tuned
yeah,
for that. That's gonna be cool.
I'm really excited.
Thank you, Jenna, for reminding us.
Oh, also speaking of other things auto show related and the internet related, first off,
Huge tracts of land.
James Pumphrey. Sorry, I was blanking
Wow,
on his
yeah,
last name.
that's why I wasn't gonna get that.
I
out
was
of the
I
air.
was saying James from Donut. I was trying to blank on his
Donut
last name.
Mickey.
Yeah, James Pumphrey's back. He's doing well. He's definitely a lot more calm than he used to be. He's like,
He's mellowed out a bit.
yeah, heart attacks do that to you. But it's really good to see he's back. Also, in his absence, I found another really good YouTube channel I really like, Hoonigan Autofocus. Larry Chen
Is that a sub channel for just the
for
Hoonigan
Hoonigan,
channel?
yeah,
Okay.
but it's just Larry Chen.
God, he's awesome, but also really difficult to look at.
Well, you don't have to look at him because he's behind the camera.
Okay.
But it's him doing vlogs of his photo shoots and like actually talking about the cars and not just not like
That's pretty neat.
yeah, not like the Chronicles vlog where it's just
Chronicles of Riddick?
no
That's Vin Diesel.
StickyDojo.com where it's just Joey Lee
no.
eating sushi.
Oh, it's
for half of
mukbang.
it.
Mukbang.
That's really weird. So yeah, Hoonigan Autofocus, very good to watch. Highly recommend it.
Fair enough.
And he talks about
I
cool
will have to look
cars.
into that because
Yeah.
like as we were just talking about, I run out of car content to look
Exactly.
at sometimes.
That's what I thought about. I was going to tell you about that anyway because he did some cool BMW.
Do you remember 2018?
Yeah, it was like 8 years ago.
Cool.
Vaguely.
Yeah. So anyway, last year, Carbitrage, we had 2 cars of the year.
Yes.
One of them was the Corolla 6-speed hatch, which is still rad. The other was the Genesis G70 6-speed.
Yes.
The G70 6-speed is getting a mid-cycle refresh sometime in the next year-ish with the
Ooh.
N-line 2.5-liter turbo engine with about 330 horsepower
Woo!
to replace the 2-liter. Woo, yes, but it
but-
sounds
There's a
like
big
this new
but.
block does not bolt to that manual transmission they use in the 2-liter. So very worrying and possibly going to kill the manual, which accounts currently for 4% of current new G70 4-cylinder take rate, which I still think is enough to keep it around.
4% is actually surprisingly
That's
high
not bad.
for,
That's about what the Corvette was up through the C7.
yeah. That's a pretty good take rate for manual. Of course, also 4%. I mean, that's probably what the take rate of like a Fiat 500 or Barth was versus a normal Fiat 500. So it's like,
I don't know. In this country, I don't think so. In Europe, almost certainly, yeah. Because
like-
the Americans are
yeah. But I mean,
As they always are.
4%'s a totally reasonable. Sorry, 4%'s a totally reasonable take rate for a manual luxury sedan.
It's a niche thing, I'll grant, but like that is the only option. Don't take this away from us, Hyundai.
Well,
I
not
want to
only-
be able to request a manual.
Well, all right. So this is the thing. I was talking about pretty much every episode, but specifically a couple episodes ago, how
Specifically?
you need something to actually bring people into the show floor.
Yeah,
Like onto the
like
show
this
floor.
is a reason to go to a Genesis
That's why
dealer.
you go to the Hyundai dealer, you go to the Genesis section, and then you
No,
walk
they
out.
have separate dealers.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. You go to the Genesis dealer, and then you walk out with a Santa Fe, like because your wife got in the way. Or something, or if you're the cool wife, your husband got in the way, or your mother, or something. Somebody got in the way,
But
and
here-
now you have a crossover.
Genesis doesn't sell SUVs, so
I like that you saw my dirty look.
I didn't see it.
Oh, well,
No.
you felt it.
look how
No, I
handsome
didn't.
this car is. It's so handsome.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's a good looking car.
I like
I'm
its
excited for that to be
It-
a used offering.
That looks like I just know because it's a Hyundai that's gonna have just muddy speakers in it though.
Yeah, but you can fix all that, and it's a
Yeah.
manual, and it has a really nice interior.
That's a good point.
These,
I like that.
I would honestly, no problem drive one of those every day.
That's actually big praise about a Korean car.
Well, it made our car of the year last year.
I know,
so
it's a
a
very
very
good
good
point.
car.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So if you're listening, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, keep the manual when you put the better
Yes.
engine in it, or
Please.
keep the 2-liter around with the stick as a base model or something. But
Yeah, the 2-liter stick it has to stick around because that's.
Yep.
Stick
Otherwise-
around.
we would
Yeah.
love the 2.5 with the manual. Don't
Well,
get me
the thing
wrong.
is-
I like the bugs in that photo.
Oh yeah, this car is not clean.
I think another
Bugs.
another very important part about the manual transmission in the Genesis, even though it's 4%, I think that's what really separates it from its competition, because you really have to get over the fact that on that VIN, it says it's made in Korea.
I also really
I don't even
like.
care. Korea stuff's good.
But I know, but I mean, you don't
I like
care.
the rhombus screen.
You don't care, but a lot of people,
trapezoid.
That is.
Oh,
that-
yeah,
that is a
trapezoid,
trapezoid. You don't care, but a lot of people that are buying BMWs are cross shopping these.
They did before BMW started just violating their own heritage with
Well,
their
I'm
design.
talking about the normal people,
I understand,
not
but there are
enthusiasts, non-enthusiasts.
there are a lot of enthusiast grade people that are displaced from these car groups right
Yeah,
now, though,
and I think-
they're willing to try new things.
And so this is where this is actually what my
Give
point
it
is
the
that the
old college
enthusiasts are
try.
going to Hyundai. The enthusiasts, that's at 4%.
Yeah.
But it's that 4% that are very, very cool looking. Mm-hmm. And that 4% is what made the 3 Series special.
Yep.
Because that 4%, if you had that 4% of cool people driving the 3 Series, and if they were driving a Cadillac Eldorado, guess what would still be in
The
production?
4% of people that bought these cars were the people buying brand new M Sport rear wheel drive BMWs.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And then, so that's this 4%.
Manual
And
ones.
if this goes away, that 4% is going to go away from that. And I
Right.
really think that
then
that's
they have to buy a Model 3 Performance.
And that's the thing, is that's what's really making Hyundai's Genesis line
Right.
actually stand out from just everybody else that wants a leather interior
I
and
agree.
In the
like a fancy nav.
trapezoid screens.
Yes, and the
And
trapezoid
they've
steering
gotten
is
a
pretty
lot
cool.
of press because of this being the only manual offering. People
It's got-
come into the showrooms.
It's
and
a very
and then They
valuable-
don't find a manual, and then they end up buying an auto.
That is
think
actually a
that's what's
very that's an exceedingly
Yeah,
good
I don't
point.
think they're ordering them. So yeah, you really do have to be dedicated. But you're right; it's a very valuable 4% of people because they're the people being displaced from the
You don't-
performance German.
I'm
cars.
not
Getting
gonna-
exercise.
You know,
Nothing else.
Scott has a really good point with that, because back when I was selling Subarus, I had a lot of people that would come through looking for like a manual Impreza or a manual Crosstrek, and I just didn't have the options they wanted, and they just go get an automatic and go whatever. Like,
It's an interesting point though, because if they have to engineer a transmission for the new 2.5, why not engineer it for the 3.3 and then offer it in the Stinger and the G70?
that would be a perfect option.
Because the 3.3T is pretty good,
Yes,
and I think their V6 has had a pretty.
everybody has said that the
standard.
Stinger would be a million times better with a manual transmission.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. So
That's like the Supra. I was like, there's a reason why it's not in my garage right now.
So
It's the
I
same
guess
thing.
my question is, we always talk about take rate with manual transmissions. We never talk about percentage or time to move on manuals. Like how long a manual transmission sits on a lot before it gets sold, compared to your average automatic.
It depends, because I know when we were looking for, Yaris's and those tiny vehicles, the cars had been sitting around literally forever.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But, at your Subaru dealership, they were like, you would just call me and be like, they have a manual in this, and then be like, oh, just kidding, I just sold it.
That's a very good point.
Like-
So there must be
Yeah,
like,
it's the
there
type
must
of
be
car.
there
So
must
the
be some sort of
EcoBox, it's like you're seeing it as a downgrade, or like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I guess I'll accept a manual to save some money.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Subaru, like I know how bad the CVTs are, so I'm really looking for a stick.
yeah.
And in one of these, you're like, I really hate automatics, and I'm not ready for an EV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me
So-
that.
There should be.
I
I
think-
have not taken nearly enough time in statistics class to learn this, but there has to be some sort of metric that you can make that takes the time on lot for a manual transmission, and then compared that to the number of requests, and then see like there should be like some sort of metric.
I think the people that are in charge of the decision that are removing all the manual options need to sit in a Maury's Subaru dealership for a week.
Not
and
just Maury's, any Subaru.
Yeah,
any
whoever
Subaru
allocates dealership lot vehicles.
Yeah,
The people that
because-
specs all season tires instead of summer, the same person that specs the options.
Yeah.
They need to order a few.
I know
manual cars.
Christian at Subaru. He's the one of the regional sales managers for the Minnesota Subaru sales. He literally said to a customer once, when a customer asked why isn't there a manual Outback sold in America when it's made in America, he said, because you're the only one looking for that.
That's not true.
Word for word what he said to the customer. And I lost that sale. Thanks, Christian.
Screw
Because
that
he
guy.
was like, not only because they didn't make it, but because he was a dick.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you could have easily said, well, it's available in the Forester.
Right.
And like, you could just get the Forester.
And you could get the Outback with the stick. No, you couldn't. You're right. That was only Canada. They
Yeah,
made it.
They
though,
make it in
yeah.
America. It's made in Indiana, and it goes to Canada.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like I just remember whenever I'd visit
That's
the
a very good
dealership
point. There's
that
a lot of people that are looking.
you were always ordering and like moving cars around different dealerships to get more manuals.
I sold.
I feel like it's a lack of education in the people that work in dealers. Honestly,
That's a very good point. I worked there for 14 months. I sold probably 2 premium cross tracks per month.
with a
And-
stick.
No, I mean 2 premium cross. So I sold a total of 28 premium cross tracks when I worked there. That particular trim level, and I know for a fact that I did at least 10 dealer trades to get a manual one, and of those, 5 of those were in Hyperblue, because I know I sold 5 manual Hyperblue cross tracks, and every single one of those had to be made to order.
And I don't know in a company like Subaru where that vehicle is probably made in the States. So like,
The
how long
cross-track's
does it?
made in Japan, but yeah.
Okay, but like the fact. Okay, so if you have a new car that is available as a manual and somebody is
Yeah.
willing to wait for it, like how long does that take?
So, with the cross tracks, those were, when I say made to order, they were allocated. So what they were done is they were pulled off a container ship, and instead of going to like Alabama or something, they'd take it to whoever's requesting it.
Sure.
So that goes a little bit faster. Now, if this person this is why they give you these like exact, concise offerings as opposed to, you can get nav without nav. You can get like the blue mirrors or the red mirrors with this sticker package. Like, you can't really do that at Subaru because half their cars are made in Japan.
Sure.
And that would then take months and months and months. But with Subaru, like, it's actually pretty quick because they usually have that car available. It's just you have to wait like
But
3
I
or
guess
4 days.
all these people are like blindly buying a car they've never driven
yeah,
because
what
the
I'll
dealer
do,
doesn't have one to
yeah, and
test.
what I'll do is I'd have to like do like some really weird stuff where like if somebody wants to drive a manual Crosstrek and I don't have on the lot, I'd have to, because I know the cars. I go, well, this manual transmission's available in this car. So I'd have to go find like a used one like at our sister dealership at Mazda, take them like 15 minutes out of their way to go have them drive like a 150,000 mile like Impreza manual.
With probably the wrong engine but the right transmission.
Yeah, and then I like go take them back and go, all right, now imagine that transmission but in this brand new car. And then they're like, okay, I do really want that. That sounds great. But it's like a massive pain in the ass. And there were so many people that were just like, whatever, I'm just going to take the Outback and just be done with it.
And that was an increasing problem even after the E-Series, E-Chassis 3 Series. Like
Yeah.
the F cars, like I knew a few people that were asking me, like, it's really frustrating. I want to test drive a 346 speed. They exist, but I can't find one.
Oh,
and every
yeah.
time I call the dealer, like, oh, you just want the automatic.
No,
It's like,
yeah,
no,
no, I
I'm
don't.
calling because I want the manual.
Well,
Yeah.
when
it's
we
one of those things you have
test
to
drove a
take
Fiat, like that was a huge pain in the ass for me. And then also, when I did the Yaris and the Mirage.
The Yaris was the most horrifying experience because the tires on that had
They had
lot
flat
rot.
spots. Yeah.
They
Nice.
had like the car obviously hadn't been moved in a very long time, so there were issues. And then
We
the-
should also say this is Walzer Toyota in Bloomington that I went to.
that
Throw them under the bus.
my-
Oh yeah, that salesperson was awful. So.
And like the thing is, I was going there as a returning Toyota customer that has bought from Toyota Walzer and specifically had my car serviced at this dealership several times before. And I went, I told them, I was like, hey, my sister lives in California. She has a Yaris manual. I would like to, I'm interested in one too. And he's like, well, you've got a Sienna. Why don't you want to drive the new Sienna? And I was like, no, my mom has the new Sienna. I don't want to drive a new Sienna. I want to drive the new Yaris. And he was the entire ride while we're having all these issues with the Yaris. He goes, this is why you want another Sienna. And I was like, no.
Don't tell me what I want.
I was like,
Furthermore, the other thing that really got me, The dude spent most of the test drive making fun of the Mirage, which I love.
Right, I remember this.
And that,
We've talked about
yeah,
this on the
we've talked about
podcast.
this before, but yeah, that's just like a terrible experience. And it's people don't take you seriously when you say, "I want a manual."
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass if you have a shitty salesperson. They're not gonna try and move it.
Except for when you go to Subaru, when you go, oh, I want a manual, they're like, all right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's also more a Subaru. That
Yeah.
I can't say for other Subarus.
Well, we went to the
because-
Bloomington Subaru, and
But that's
we were
also-
looking for, your mom was in the
You also-
market,
you
and
have
the
to
BRZ
understand,
had just come out.
I'm friends with the store with the dealership manager,
Okay.
so it's like that one. Like we got kind of weird special treatment with that.
Okay.
So, but yeah. Anyway, I think a lot of this whole manual take rate thing is just availability.
Yeah, if you're not allocating a car for test drives on your lot, you are not going to get the take rate because you're going to get the 4% that's ordering the cars that will consistently keep ordering
Yeah.
these cars. But yeah, if you keep screwing them over and like belittling them and telling them that you want something you don't want, I mean, you're just you're gonna drive business away from your dealership,
This is
whether or not they buy
another
a car.
question. I'm sorry, this keeps going on, but I keep having these questions in my mind. What percentage of people originally shopping for a manual but
It's a
were
really good
put
question.
into an automatic? What percentage of them change brands with their next vehicle?
That would be such a tough statistic
Yeah.
to try to find data on,
The
but
conquest rate would be interesting on this.
Yeah, like
because
that-
the BMWs lost it.
Yeah,
No
because
Julia manual. And all that.
Yeah.
that's the thing. The conquest rate is that it must be just like phenomenal.
yeah, like this car's fine, but I really do want to get back into a stick for my next car.
I would
So I'll be
s-
curious to see if like in 4 years' time.
The
if
2.0T is not getting rave reviews as an engine.
Well, it's
Yeah.
a very old engine. I mean,
Right.
this was born with the Genesis Coupe
And-
in 2011.
So if
God,
you're an
that's a-
enthusiast, you might be pushed into the V6 anyway because you want an engine that has some character or life to it. So reviews have not been great on that 2.0T for itself.
that is a very very odd.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a pretty peaky engine.
Yeah, I think that would be a very interesting thing to know. It's the conquest.
But if you want a new
ratio,
manual
yeah.
sports sedan, you have one option.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, don't buy an ATS if that's even sold. Like, that thing's ancient and it's not that good. But the G70, yes, the power delivery is a little lumpy on that 2.0.
I like a lumpy power delivery.
Me too, which is why I love the Fiata.
Yeah, like lumpy power delivery is where it's at. Like, give me lumpy power delivery over boring power delivery. Like,
Yeah, it has character.
Like the lumpiness of the Fiat is more fun to drive than an EcoBoost Mustang because it is lumpy.
It's because it drives like an old school turbo car.
Yeah, it's great. I want a big fat lump of power. Give
Yeah.
that to me.
Like, it's just, here's a really laggy brick wall of torque.
Yeah,
And
that's
like,
exactly
I'm
what
just
I
gonna
want.
operate my
That sounds
life.
great.
It is great. I
All
miss
right.
that car.
Let's round out the episode with
Cool.
what we learned.
All right.
I will start because I actually do remember my what we learned from. I learned this week. There is a breed of tarantula that is native to Peru that keeps small frogs as pets.
Eric has a very confused face. It's turned into pain.
The reason they do this is it actually protects their eggs from fire ants. The frog, it's a symbiotic relationship where the frog gets unlimited food and protection from predators, and in return, the tarantula gets to keep its babies safe. Like, that's a really, really cool thing. I think that's like my favorite thing that I learned this week by far. That there's a. Would you like me to get you the name of the breed?
No. Okay. I learned this week that being on antibiotics actually makes you more susceptible to getting more sick.
Yep.
Oh, what happened to you?
Don't worry about it. 2019 is almost over.
Yeah, you're out of diseases to get. I think.
I got a really bad sinus infection.
Oh God.
I learned this week, so I did a bunch of neuropsych testing, and one of them was a test to gauge out my attention span, and I literally scored 0.
Cool.
Yeah.
Goldfish.
I was like, like it was funny because like you just like stared at this black computer screen and it had like a little orange a box that flashed numbers at you, and you were only supposed to press when they
Oh,
either
that sounds like an
told
IQ
you
test.
one or like flashed one, and literally everything in the room distracted me, even though there was nothing to distract me.
was gonna say those rooms are typically pretty geared toward
Yeah,
not having any distractions.
so the person testing me was like, so IQ wise and everything, you did brilliantly, but you got a 0. And I was like, sounds right.
Yep, I
was
could have
like-
told you that.
I was like, yeah, there was a few seconds there where I didn't remember anything happening and then realized I was taking a test.
Very fine.
Yeah, for like 15 seconds, so that's great.
I'm pretty proud of what. I
Well,
learned.
congratulations on your 0 attention
I'm
span.
super proud of that. People are like, "Are you sad?" I'm like, "No, I'm proud. Like that's
I'm glad that there's
amazing."
data backing up
Yeah.
what I knew.
Exactly.
And Burry, congratulations on learning why we like antibiotic free beef in our food.
It's
Cool.
not correlated.
Yeah, no. That's
No, because
this is amoxicillin twice a day, so it is 400
wait, is
milligram pills.
amoxicillin? Oh, you got the pills. That's not the. What was that yummy one
No.
that you had as a kid?
I don't
that
know,
was the
but this
pink
this was like the 12 days, twice a day,
is amoxicillin.
giant pill
Was that
thing.
amoxicillin?
Yeah.
'Cause there was a.
But the way antibiotics work is they really attack your stomach. So they're really good at targeting one cold, but
Mm-hmm.
while you're targeting that one, you're really susceptible to other ones.
Yep.
So I guess this one is from amoxicillin. Before I quit vaping, I found out that there was an amoxicillin flavored vape juice.
That's not a good flavor. Although Modi seemed strangely attractive to my medication.
It's a delicious flavor. If
not,
you like
though.
amoxicillin, there's a vape juice for it. Anyway,
Yuck.
now you know.
Bye.